I had been driving for hours, eyes burning from the strain, the headlights of my car barely cutting through the thick fog that clung to the road like a desperate hand. It was one of those nights where everything seemed off, the kind that made your skin prickle and your heart beat just a little faster without reason. The highway stretched endlessly in front of me, a black ribbon winding through nowhere, and I was nowhere near my destination. The sign appeared like an apparition out of the mist. 24-hour gas station 2 miles ahead. Relief washed over me. My gas tank had been on empty for the last 20 minutes and I needed to stretch my legs. But more than that, I needed a break from the oppressive weight of the dark road. When I pulled into the gas station, it looked like something out of a time capsule, straight out of the 1980s, with faded neon lights flickering sporadically above the roof. The pumps were old, their numbers barely visible in the dim glow. The entire place was eerily quiet, too quiet. Not even the wind made a sound as it passed through the cracked windows and rusted metal signs. I stepped out of the car, the gravel crunching under my boots unnervingly loud in the silence. The air was thick with moisture, and a chill ran down my spine even though it wasn't particularly cold. I approached the pump and started refueling, eyes darting nervously toward the small convenience store attached to the station. The windows were fogged up, obscuring whatever might be inside. As I stood there, the hairs on the back of my neck rose. I could feel it, a presence, or maybe more than one. I wasn't alone. I glanced around, trying to shake the feeling, but the fog seemed to press in closer and the night seemed darker now that I had stopped. The pump clicked off, signaling the tank was full. But just as I reached to remove the nozzle, I heard it. A faint whisper carried on the still air, so quiet I almost thought I imagined it. Help! I froze, my heart skipping a beat. The sound was coming from behind me, near the store. I turned slowly, eyes scanning the fog for movement. There was nothing there, just the hulking shadow of the building and the dim light from the old fluorescent bulb flickering overhead. I swallowed hard, telling myself it was just my imagination. But then the whisper came again, more distinct this time, more desperate. Please, help me. I couldn't ignore it now. Against every instinct screaming at me to get back in the car and drive away, I found myself walking toward the store, the gravel crunching underfoot like bones breaking. And then there, in the corner of the room, I saw her. A woman, pale and gaunt, stood near the far wall, her eyes wide and hollow, her clothes torn and dirty. She didn't look real. She looked wrong, somehow, like a figure out of a nightmare brought to life. "Please, you have to help me," she whispered, her voice cracking as if she hadn't spoken in years. I opened my mouth to respond, but before I could say anything, a loud echoed through the room. The lights flickered violently, plunging the store into momentary darkness. My heart raced as I turned to look behind me, expecting to see something, anything, but the door was still closed, the night outside as still and silent as ever. When I turned back, the woman was gone. I stood there, breath catching in my throat, the weight of the silence pressing down on me. My eyes scanned the store, trying to make sense of what I had just seen. Had she been real? Or was I just so exhausted that my mind was playing tricks on me? Then, the lights flickered again, and this time I saw them. Not just the woman, but more of them. Figures, shadowy and indistinct, moving through the aisles. They were there for just a moment, then gone, like phantoms passing through a veil. And with them came the whispers, louder now, overlapping voices, all pleading, all desperate. "Help me, please, don't leave us." Panic gripped me and I bolted for the door, but as my hand touched the cold metal handle, it burned like ice. I jerked back, my skin searing with pain, and the door wouldn't budge. I was trapped. The whispers grew louder, filling the room, filling my head. I turned around, back pressed against the door as the figures became more solid, more real, stepping out of the shadows, their faces twisted in agony. They were the spirits of the dead. People who had died on this highway in tragic accidents, their souls bound to this place, reliving their final moments over and over again. And now, they wanted me. They wanted me to join them. A guttural scream tore from one of the figures as it lunged toward me, its hands outstretched, fingers twisted and broken, reaching for my throat. I ducked, running deeper into the store, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would burst. The sound of footsteps, too many footsteps, followed close behind me, echoing through the aisles. I had to find a way out. I had to get away from this place, but every corner I turned led to more dead ends, more shadows, more whispers. I was trapped in their nightmare. And then I saw it. A door at the back of the store, half hidden behind a shelf. I sprinted toward it, throwing it open without a second thought, desperate for escape. A shadow, tall and grotesque, shifting in the mist. Its shape was wrong. Too many limbs, too many angles. It moved with a strange jerky motion like it was struggling to keep its form together, pieces of it snapping in and out of focus. My heart raced as I realized this wasn't just another spirit, this was something worse, something that fed on the dead, and the living. It moved closer, and as it did, the whispers grew louder, more frantic, as if the spirits themselves were afraid of this thing. I could feel its hunger. A deep, gnawing emptiness that wanted to consume everything in its path, including me. Without thinking, I turned and ran. I sprinted down the twisted highway, dodging the wreckage and the bodies, the fog swirling around me like a living thing trying to pull me back. My breath came in ragged gasps, and every step felt like I was wading through thick mud, but I pushed on, driven by pure terror. Behind me, I could hear the thing moving, its heavy footsteps crunching on broken glass and metal, its distorted shape looming closer with every second. I didn't dare look back. I couldn't. If I saw it again, I knew I would freeze and then it would be over. The road stretched on endlessly, the fog thickening, the whispers now a deafening roar in my ears. The spirits were begging me to stop, to turn back, but I couldn't. I wouldn't. I had to escape. I had to find a way out of this nightmare. And then, up ahead, I saw it. A small, flickering light, barely visible through the fog. It looked like an exit, a way out of this twisted reality. Hope surged through me and I pushed myself harder, my legs burning with the effort. The light grew brighter as I got closer and I could see it now. An old rusted gate half open leading into the darkness beyond. But just as I reached the gate, the ground beneath me shifted violently. I stumbled, falling to my knees, and when I looked up I saw them. Figures, dozens of them standing just beyond the gate, their faces twisted in agony, their eyes hollow and empty. They were the spirits of the dead, the ones who had died on this cursed highway. They were waiting for me. "Join us," one of them whispered, its voice barely audible over the roar of the whispers. "It's over. There's no escape." I shook my head, scrambling to my feet. No, I can't. I won't." But as I tried to push forward to reach the gate, the spirits surged toward me. Their cold, ghostly hands grabbing at my clothes, my skin. I screamed, thrashing against them, but their grip was too strong. They were pulling me back, dragging me down into the wreckage, into the darkness. And then I heard it again, that terrible, guttural sound. The creature was here, closing in, its twisted shape looming over us, its many eyes glowing with hunger. The spirits released me all at once, their attention snapping to the creature. They seemed to be retreating as if they knew what was coming. But it was too late. The thing lunged forward, its distorted limbs grabbing one of the spirits, tearing it apart in a gruesome display of gore. The other spirits wailed, their voices piercing through the air as they scattered. But the creature didn't stop. It wanted more. I seized the opportunity, forcing myself to my feet and running toward the gate. I could feel the ground shaking beneath me, the air growing colder as the creature consumed the spirits. But I didn't look back. I couldn't. I reached the gate, pushing it open with all my strength, and stumbled through. The fog parted for a moment and I saw the highway again, the real one, stretching out before me, bathed in the pale light of the moon. But as I took a step forward, the fog began to close in again, the whispers returning, softer now, but still there, still haunting me. I knew this wasn't over. Whatever that thing was, it wasn't done with me yet. And I wasn't sure if I had truly escaped, or if I had just entered a deeper level of the nightmare. I stood there at the edge of the fog, my breath coming in ragged gasps, my body trembling with exhaustion. The highway stretched out before me, empty and silent, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. I had escaped the gas station, or at least I thought I had, but the air still felt thick, oppressive, like I was standing at the threshold of something much darker. I forced myself to take a step forward, my legs heavy with fear and fatigue. Every instinct screamed at me to get back to my car, to leave this place behind, but the fog still lingered in the corners of my vision, swirling just out of reach. The whispers had faded, but I could still feel them, like a faint echo inside my head. As I made my way down the highway, my mind raced, replaying everything I had seen. The spirits, the wreckage, the creature that had torn through the dead. It didn't make sense. None of it made sense. But the images wouldn't leave me. The twisted limbs, the broken bodies, the cold, hollow eyes of the spirits. They were burned into my memory, haunting me with every step. My car was just ahead, sitting exactly where I had left it, the headlights cutting weakly through the fog. I quickened my pace, desperate to get inside, to feel the safety of the enclosed space. But as I reached for the door handle, I froze. There, in the reflection of the window, I saw something moving in the back seat. My heart skipped a beat and I slowly turned around, but the car was empty. The back seat was dark, untouched, yet the reflection had been so clear, so vivid. Someone or something had been there. I stood there paralyzed, my mind racing. Had it followed me? Had I brought it with me out of that nightmare? The thought made my stomach churn, but I forced myself to take a deep breath to calm the rising panic. I had to leave. Now. I climbed into the car, slamming the door behind me and locking it, as if that would somehow keep the darkness at bay. My hands shook as I turned the key in the ignition, the engine sputtering to life. The headlights flared brighter, cutting through the fog, and for a brief moment, I allowed myself to believe that it was over, that I had escaped. But then, as I put the car in drive, the radio crackled to life. At first, it was just static, harsh, grating white noise that filled the car, setting my teeth on edge. I reached out to turn it off, but before I could, a voice broke through the static, faint, distorted, but unmistakable. "You can't leave!" The blood drained from my face. My hand hovered over the dial, trembling as the voice continued, growing louder, more insistent. "You can't escape us. You belong to the highway now." I slammed my hand against the radio, trying to turn it off. But the voice only grew louder, the static warping into a chorus of tortured whispers. My vision blurred as the noise filled my head, drowning out everything else. And I could feel it, something crawling beneath my skin, something cold and malevolent. And then, just as suddenly as it had started, the radio went silent. For a moment, all I could hear was my own ragged breathing, the rapid thump of my heart pounding in my ears. I gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles white, trying to steady myself. It was over. It had to be over. I just needed to get back on the road, to get as far away from this place as possible. I pressed down on the gas pedal, the car lurching forward, the tires crunching over the gravel. The fog seemed to part in front of me, revealing the highway stretching out into the distance, empty and endless. I sped up, the road blurring beneath me as I tried to outrun the fear, the horror of what I had seen. But as I drove, something caught my eye in the rearview mirror. A figure, standing on the side of the road behind me, barely visible in the fading glow of the taillights. It was the woman. The same gaunt, hollow-eyed woman I had seen in the gas station. She was just standing there, staring after me, her expression blank and lifeless. I glanced back over my shoulder, but the road was empty. There was nothing there. When I looked at the mirror again, the woman was gone. My grip tightened on the wheel, my pulse quickening. I couldn't let my mind play tricks on me now. I had to stay focused, had to keep driving. But the uneasy feeling gnawed at me, the sense that something wasn't right, that something was still following me. And then I heard it. A faint sound, almost imperceptible at first, but growing louder with every passing second. It was coming from the back seat, a soft, rhythmic tapping like fingers drumming against the upholstery. I didn't want to look. Every fiber of my being told me not to look. But I couldn't help it. Slowly, I turned my head, eyes flicking to the rearview mirror. There was nothing there. The back seat was empty, but the tapping continued, growing louder, more insistent. And then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw it. A shadow, moving behind me, shifting in the darkness. It wasn't human. It was that thing, the creature from the gas station, twisted and grotesque, its many limbs contorting as it crept closer. My heart raced as I slammed my foot on the gas, the car speeding up, but the creature was still there, closing in on me, its distorted face inches from mine. I could see its eyes now, glowing with a sickly light, filled with hunger, with malice. I screamed, swerving wildly on the road, trying to shake it off, but it was relentless. And then, in a moment of pure terror, I realized the horrifying truth. It wasn't just following me, it was inside me. I could feel it now, crawling beneath my skin, twisting and writhing, sinking its claws into my very soul. The pain was unbearable, like fire and ice ripping through my veins. My vision blurred as the world around me started to fade, the road dissolving into darkness. The creature wasn't trying to kill me, it was becoming me. As I lost control of the car, I could hear the whispers again, louder than ever, a cacophony of voices all pleading, all screaming. And in that final moment, as the car careened off the road and into the darkness, I understood. I wasn't escaping. I had never escaped. I was part of the highway now, just like them, trapped forever, reliving this nightmare over and over again, another lost soul to join the endless chorus of the dead. And as the darkness swallowed me whole, I realized with a bone-chilling certainty there was no way out. Not for me, not for anyone.